welcome to another kingscrusher radio show. So this is streaming on playchess.com and also on YouTube. So this week I have a couple of very exciting games, maybe even mega exciting games, to show you from Tata Steel. Let's mute that over there. So I want to say hi on stream. Okay, so let's see. The first game I'd like to show you, which I found very interesting, is White E was playing black against Richard Report. This is in round 6. Let's have a look at this game to start off with. Connect to live book and add a kibitzer. Okay, ready to roll here. So E4 from Richard Report. We have E5, Knight F3. Now Knight F6, yes, Petrov. These Petrovs are not entirely exciting usually. Actually there's the promise of a great boredom when black plays the Petrov usually. Anyway, so Knight takes E5. D6. Now quite often the knight just goes to F3. This is actually an alternative that's been played over 300 times before, moving the knight to C4. It's a more exotic location than F3. Note also it isn't entirely dull sometimes with the new trend with knight F3, which is to play not D4 here, but the second most popular, knight C3. So for example like this, takes away from the centre, and games actually can be opposite side castling, which is usually a very exciting thing if black castles kingside. So that is not totally devoid of interest actually if it's played with not D4 here but knight C3. It's one of those cases where you're kind of self-inflicting damage to make the game interesting. But anyway, so knight c4 though, what has this got going for it? Okay, knight takes e4 is the main move, and usually players play either knight c3 here or queen e2. In this game we see queen e2. Now, after queen e2, we have queen e7. The knight goes to e3. So the knight going to e3, I think actually usually c6 is played here. Is white actually threatening anything too dangerous? Yes, white is threatening knight d5 here in particular. Although f5 is covered, d5 isn't. If knight d5 happens, that's a disaster for black. Example, g6, knight d5 is a disaster. Hitting c7, hitting the queen, and the queen's holding the knight. So nothing to do here. It's losing a piece. Here it loses the queen. Yeah, so that's got to be parried. Anyway, so it's parried with bishop e6. So actually bishop e6 is not the usual move actually. More frequently has c6 has been played more frequently. For example like this, it's seen more frequently, and it's supposed to be about equal, this kind of position. Okay, so bishop e6, less frequent visitor. So we're going quite outside book now. Knight c3, knight going back, g3, and this looks entirely logical. It looks as though the knights are holding the d5 square quite nicely, and white's going to get a firmer grip across the diagonal. It looks really logical. One slight concern that white might have is the queen on e2 could be subject to a tempo game like this. For example, the d4 square looks a bit sensitive and neglected here at the moment. And we have actually knight c6, bishop g2, queen d7. And this creates this battery to be able to exchange off the light square bishop. Okay, so what is happening here? Can white just castle kingside? If white castles kingside, let's see. I think black could actually castle queenside and try and launch an attack. But actually, white kind of tries to preempt black castling queenside with this move b4, and it looks fairly dangerous. If it's taken, then there's going to be big trouble, surely, with rook b1 later and lots of pressure. So it's actually ignored. Black plays d5, trying to close up this diagonal. And we have b5. Now knight d4 hits that queen. Queen d3. c5. So it looks like, yeah, the d4 square at least is in black's possession here, kind of. But of course later white could arrange c3 one day maybe to kick this knight. For the moment white castles kingside and black castles queenside. So far from having a mega boring game out of the Petrov, actually we have quite an exciting position, opposite side castling in this line. Black has the d5 square pretty covered and a nice knight on d4, and it's here actually after rook e1 black actually goes for it. The conditions seem quite okay to try and just go for the king with h5. It looks as though nothing's going to stop this kind of attack. h4 is played, but a very, very energetic move here. Can you guess what black plays to try and continue the attack? I'll give you 200 points if you can find it. Black's play. So you're trying to continue the attack. What would you play in this position? So this is if you just joined, this is Richard Report. I hope you haven't seen the game against White E. Maybe you have. It was in round 6. It was on the 20th. So let's see. What would you play in this position? Playing black. Oh, there seems to be a little bit of an issue with. I just noticed webcam. I'm going to fix that. I hope. Well, wait. While I'm giving you a chance. Hasn't quite fixed that. Not yet. Or maybe it has. Okay, so yeah, black continues the attack here with g5. Yeah, really energetic, trying to break through this h file. Yeah, now, okay, so what happens here? If this is taken, knight g4, and black might be continuing, well, black actually threatens knight e5, actually, with the idea of knight coming to check. That's really serious with the queen on d3. Given that, this is very dangerous for white, this position. And in fact, although technically there might be something white can do, this is scary. Let's see, the engine solution, this is an engine solution to take here. So this is crazy. So if here, queen e4. Alright, so that would, maybe that would be okay. And good for white. Okay, but hg5, yeah, it wasn't actually played. It wasn't actually played. So yeah, it seems as though that is a kind of weakness of the last move. The d5 square is neglected. Yeah, I don't think there's too much of a problem here to be faced. The queen is protected by the pawn, so we can't actually try and win the queen. We can also just take like that. Yeah, this is a bit problematic, this position, it seems. But funny enough, instead of taking that pawn, we have b6 being played. So what's the idea of this? Well, if taking, let's just check taking. This changes things significantly on hg. This wasn't played. Knight g4. This is even better for white, basically. Even better. It's a huge threat. So like trying to improve on that. Even better. But a6 was played here. And now, you know, that was a kind of delay of this. Now this is played. Knight g4. So the threat here is knight e5. With the idea if the queen goes back, hasn't got many other squares, then check will be dangerous. But it's white's move, and as noted, yeah, actually this was played. Knight c takes d5 here. The thing is now, okay, the b6 square is occupied by pawns, so there's no check, which would have been good. Black continues with h4. So still trying to rip open these lines. Maybe the bishop can come to d6 later. Knight c7. This might not have been the best. Apparently, let's have a look at this position. Knight takes g4. Might be good. Let's have a look. Bishop takes d5. Knight f6. Apparently white can play this. Oh, this is all very scary stuff. This is just crazy stuff, but white can play all of this crazy stuff. Let's have a look. So h4, knight c7 was played. So talking technically, knight takes g4 with the idea of knight f6 forking the queen and bishop. Yeah. And if bishop takes g4, this should be very good for white. Bishop b2, it should be very good. In theory. It still looks scary though. What about the h pawn here? If h3 or hg? If h3, bishop e4, or even bishop takes d4, and if here, yeah, it seems as though black's attack isn't quite working. This isn't quite working. There's knight f6 here, hitting the queen. Yeah, it should. Black isn't really doing that well. White's winning this, in fact. So it's interesting that, yeah, seems to be the case that knight takes g4 might be very testing for black. Just have a look at the mega sharp line, the queen set line again. So this is a queen set line. Bishop takes g2. Has the idea of queen h3, so that queen is taken, and now knight f3 check has the idea that if king takes, then there's knight. This is crazy. There's knight takes e1, and black would be winning, but queen takes f3, and bishop b2. This leads to a position apparently where white might be better. It's very murky waters actually. Okay, so you can understand an inaccuracy creeping in here. Knight c7 was played instead. Now we have the move h3, and this is scary for h2 check. But white tries to open up black's king with bishop takes b7 check. Which looks really, really scary, right? Because the a6 pawn, the knight is hitting with the queen, the a6 pawn. This is taken, queen takes a6. It looks incredibly scary. But is there actually a win here? If there isn't, black has got a lot of attacking potential here, as well as this centralized knight. Black's got this pawn supported by the rook, and the bishop might even be useful later. Knight takes g4 is played. Bishop takes. Discovered check. Very scary, but giving up a knight here check. And the king doesn't, in principle, want to come forward. Away he tests this with king b8. But we get this position where he doesn't really want to draw like this. So he plays for a win. He plays king d6. So the king has been drawn out a bit. Check. Now the problem is, if queen c6, then we can just take on d8. If knight c6, actually this should be okay. Black can play knight c6. It doesn't. I'm not sure where actually white is attacking here. He's running out of pieces, isn't he? If he plays this, then I think he's run out of fuel, actually. Yeah, but even better, the king just goes to d5. Yeah, not minding even the possibility of c4 check. If c4 wasn't even played, actually, if c4 check, I think we just take that one. And what's the big deal? The knight is protecting the king, protecting squares like b3. There's no actual mate here, it seems. There's no mate. I mean, there's not enough resource here. So white plays rook e3. There is sometimes a perk, and of course he's played an immortal where he's dragged the opponent's king down. The perk of doing that, actually, I actually philosophized this a few days back, actually. This is actually something quite interesting, because usually I might be an example of sometimes wanting to be an attacking player. Usually when you draw the king up the board, you're usually trying to, in general, before such a procedure of trying to draw the king up to up in your territory, you're usually trying to use your own resources on squares around the opponent's king. But the idea of dragging the king into your territory, it's almost as if you're actually the reverse. You're dragging the opponent's king onto your resources, which on your side of the board, and away from the opponent's defensive resources. It's kind of, yeah, trying to just get the king to the attacking resources. But here it seems, in this position, black is in control. There just isn't enough to justify this. Black is actually not just material up, but also has very dangerous threats as well. h2 check, king h1, and shows that now on this diagonal. This is a very sensitive diagonal, queen c6. So the king itself is going to be doing a discover check, which would be pretty lethal here. It's pretty lethal. Rook b1 is played, not moving the queen. This is really a killer. There's no point check. It's a mate in 3. King d6 is a mate in 3. This check. Bishop takes, and then queen takes. Yeah, it's over really. This position is already over. Rook b1, queen takes b6, rook takes b6, bishop d6. Yeah, black's just material up. There's still no mating there. Even though the king's on d5, some escape squares, some. I'll take it up, and there's some self-blockage, right? But if there's no mate with c4, it's not happening. White is like 2 moves away at least. It's easily stopped. If this was a 1 minute game, and white played d3, then if black blundered, then there's c4, checkmate. But actually, this can be parried. Knight takes c2, end of game, and there's nothing. That's the only kind of way, it seems, to checkmate the black king. We have bishop b2 here, and after rook d8, white just resigned here. It's actually completely hopeless. The rook is trying to defend f3. If this takes, then we just play bishop f3, checkmate. Okay, it looked like for a moment it looked really good to sacrifice the bishop. on b7. They're both super talented grandmasters, very, very young, both of them. I think they had a match in recent months as well. But in this particular game, it seems as though Wei Yi initially actually also he took more risks actually and got away with it. It seemed, but it's razor sharp lines to try and refute this H-file attack. It really is pretty razor sharp in there. Some of those variations. I mean, it looks on the surface like a bit of a hack attack game from both sides, but yeah, there's a lot of complexity in this game and analysis. Sorry, on stream, Travis Petit, has written, it's worth noting that White played knight c7 instantly. So, report didn't consider knight takes g4 for long. Let's go back to that position where he played this move instantly then. So apparently he played this move instantly. Yeah, this is the one where knight. Yeah, it seems really logical to want to sack a knight for 2 pawns, but yeah, White's king is also in the firing line. So actually, I don't know. It's such a tricky position to get right. You can only get such a position right, not I think through generalizations, but through very, very concrete calculation. So yeah, it seems that knight takes g4 is the way to go. Yeah, but it's sharp stuff. Knight f6. Yeah, bishop g2. Knight takes d7. Knight f3. The queen sack. This position here. Bishop b2 hitting the rook. Because otherwise, this is all pretty razor sharp. Because otherwise here. And well, we're taking, so bishop e2 hitting the rook, but there's variations here. I only showed you I think like a glimpse of this position. Let's just go back for a moment. Can White really be better? It looks as though White's getting mated potentially, but apparently this is okay because there's just in time an escape square for f2. And yes, light squares versus dark squares in this scenario. So yeah, apparently this is technically the way White should have played it. But I think it's scary because Black's got that H-file. It's a scary position still with opposite coloured bishops. Apparently White would be technically better, but yeah, who can see all this stuff? Yeah. Okay, so yeah, the knight c7 was the one played instantly. Knight c7 then apparently. It looks logical. Yeah, it's just not working out here. Oh, sorry, not for the knight sack, for the very fast bishop sack, not for knight takes a6. Now. Also, let's go back here for a moment. If here, I think this is too slow, check. If here, knight e5. And we've always got this diagonal as well. And we've also got bishop h3 check. It's killing. Yeah, all the light squares are, yes, it's murder. That's just not possible to have played bishop h1 here. That's too late. So yeah, knight c7 is probably the critical mistake technically. Alright, anyway, a fun game there. Let's have a look at another game now. But he is, they're both very, very exciting players to watch. Thankfully. There are a lot of exciting players still. Over 2,700 even, so that's great. So this game I'd like to show you next is Richard Port against Magnus Carlsen. So this was in round 8. Let's flip the board. Knight f3, and after d5. Yes, this is a very, very good trick to remember. that if you want to play b3, yeah, I know this. You can actually, there's even information on Wiki about this. The thing is, right, if you want to play b3, you're giving, if you play it on the first move, you're giving an indication. You're saying to the opponent, I'm going to be putting on pressure on the dark squares. You're saying that immediately to the opponent. And in the ideal world, the opponent would say, okay, I'll give you like a dark square grip, and I'll help you because I'll put all my pawns on light squares, yeah, like this. I'll put all my pawns nicely on light squares, so you can have this fantastic bishop and fantastic control of e5 and d5, right? But the thing is, if you play b3, you're revealing your hand. I don't even play cards, but I can imagine it's like the equivalent in cards. It's like revealing your hand to the other players in a card game. That your idea is dark square control. So really, if you play knight f3 first and the opponent plays d5, then they are potentially committing to light square occupation, giving you dark square grip. So now b3 is really quite logical, and it's actually called something else. When you play knight f3 and b3, then b3, Nimzo Larsen attack, I think, rather than yeah, something like that. Okay, so what does it say in here actually? It's they call it the ready opening. All right, so it's another way of playing b3, but trying to get the grip on the dark squares a bit more confidently now that black has played d5. So Magnus is not minding, it seems, to carry on like, well, he has to carry on like this. So yeah, white's got that comfortable grip now on the dark squares. So he's done well potentially out of the opening, but d3, I have to say, d3 is looking a little bit odd. And also, I want to be honest with you, it has been very rarely played in live, but that's a fact. Quite often e3 is played here. With d3, it looks as though white's creating extra weaknesses which might not be entirely necessary. But, okay, is it that critical? Knight bd2, c4 is played now. Okay, g3, and in fact this starts to look suspiciously like a recent rapid play game that we actually covered in one of these Tuesdays, where Magnus Carlsen lost to someone with this kind of setup. It looks a little bit like that. So we've transposed into what looks to be a comfortable position for white out of an English opening. a3, a5. It's comfortable, yeah. The dark square grip. It looks as though white hasn't got too many problems here. Queen b1 is played. That's pretty nifty looking as well, actually. So it's got an idea of maybe not just supporting e4 at some point, but also b4, because there's some ideas on for b4, and in fact, after bishop h7, we do see b4 here. So what's happening here? If after a takes, this is played, a takes. Well, if rook takes a1, we can then protect the b pawn. And if bishop takes, then that's a loose piece. Bang! Bishop takes f6, hitting the queen. And in fact, I don't think this works. This is still there. Just take that. And if here, which, yeah, we just take that first. Yeah, we don't take the bishop because rook takes a1. No, what we do, we take on a8 first. Yeah, this is working well to win a piece. Okay, so yeah, b4 is fine and dandy. b4, it's taking. Okay, now here queen b6 from Magnus. Bishop c3 protecting the b pawn. But in fact, this is still becoming an issue for the actual main game. This b4 thing, the tactics around b4, is actually emerging now as a theme of this game. Because actually Magnus tests this in this position. he takes on a1, and actually does play bishop takes b4 here. Is this greedy? Isn't this giving white potentially some counterplay? White takes or play. Maybe counterplay is a bit too demeaning. Actual stronger piece play. You really only need counterplay when you're kind of losing in general, or worse. I wouldn't say white needs counterplay. White's getting more active piece play. His rook is quite aggressive now on the 7th rank. His queen is very nice across those dark squares. Now this starts to be a little bit ambitious looking from there. This e5, trying to close down this diagonal. Now that dangerous lurking rook, and there's still this dangerous, potentially dangerous light square bishop. And playing a move like e5, although it shuts down dark squares, it opens up light squares. That's the horrible trade-off of playing a move like e5, because this is the triangle of solidity. This pawn triangle here, usually shielding against the bishop. It's slightly being weakened with e5. We have now d4. E takes d4, knight takes d4, and you can start to feel the effects of this bishop now. c5, the knight goes back. d4, the pawns are being put on light squares, and if anyone plays something like the Alvin counter gambit, you're aware that this structure with this bishop is often horrible and painful on all the light squares. This looks like such a structure. Black, by committing now the pawns, we've gone from a solid triangle against this bishop to a structure which really favours, actually, pardon me, the light square bishop here. Look at this light square play. But it's not just on this diagonal. It's not just on the most obvious diagonal. The pressure is brought to bear now on this diagonal, bishop h3. On this diagonal. Is white actually threatening anything? Yes, potentially queen a7 now to put more pressure on d7. Now this next move is has been commented on as perhaps being a bit too ambitious. d3. It opens up now again this diagonal, and it kind of blocks in Manx's bishop. And in fact, e3, white is happy that now this bishop's blocked. Yeah, this diagonal's open, this diagonal's good, this rook is good. There's also, again, still possibilities of either queen a7 or even queen a5, maybe going into c7 later. So this is a very, very happy position for white to be in. The structure here in relation to the pieces has changed so dramatically in the last few moves, especially in relation to the light square bishops. This light square bishop was not such a happy bunny with the pawn triangle, and this one was fine earlier, but now this one's unhappy and this one's quite happy. So we have knight e5 now. It does neglect the f3 square. It's an echo as though there's something about f3 that's been played for, but the bishop actually retreats back. Is actually black threatening anything? Maybe bishop e4 apparently. Yeah, bishop e4 could be dangerous, but that's stopped with bishop g2. Just as an example, just a quick example, queen a4, bishop e4 hits the rook. Yeah, this could be unpleasant, because then we got the d pawn. If that's ever taken, that would be really horrible with the d pawn. So no, that stopped. Bishop g2. Rook c8, f4, not minding weakening e3 a bit. It's only is it that exploitable? e4, does it matter about the knight going into e3? Probably not. Rook e8 was played. If knight e3, e5, winning a piece there. But yeah, white is actually threatening e5 in this position to seemingly win a piece, because the bishop will be protecting the rook, so there'll be no counterattack against the rook. But how does black actually parry against e5? I mean, his move doesn't seem to that much. Before we go into rook e8, if black tried to parry e5, let's say knight d7, The problem with this, okay, that means it's not a fork, but actually queen a7, and now what? Knight going back? I think we could just take on f7. The pig on the 7th is being pushed and encouraged by the queen on a7 here. And I think this can only get worse. Say this here. And we got bishop f3. Yeah, it's just dominating position. So Magnus goes for, yeah, what seems to be yeah, it seems to be scary to allow e5. He's actually going to do a piece sack. Knight takes f. Knight g takes e5. Sorry, rook takes e5. So the immediate threat, if black's, what is black actually threatening here? It's actually difficult to tell what black's threatening. Again, it doesn't seem to be an immediate threat. Let's give black a move just to see if there is anything. I think actually he's just in serious trouble. Say this. Oh, then it might be dangerous for rook e2. As an example, this could be a disaster scenario. Check. Yeah, this could be a disaster. You can see that how this could be a disaster scenario. Okay, with this rook threatening to come to the 7th, it could potentially. I'm sure if a lesser mortal was playing this position, they could completely screw this up from here. Because there is this dangerous possibility of rook e2. Let me just show you how to screw it up again. h3, bishop f5 means the king can go for a back row. If you play a move like this, you'll be dead. Bishop takes h3. Yeah, I mean here it's already tricky. This is already dynamically balanced because of rook e2. This is very scary stuff. All right. So basically, though, there is a move in this position which avoids the nasties and unpleasantness which might have arisen from stuff like rook e2 and bishop f5, and it's a really good move, actually. Yeah, I think you can only appreciate the power of the move if you appreciate the power of black's potential threats, which are kind of subtle here, but lurking. So, did anyone see this? Maybe you did. What white play here? What would you play with white? You want to try and parry some of the incoming dangers. There's a very, very good move that was played. To Richard Report's great credit. A defensive achievement. Maybe you can't call it defensive achievement. No, actually. Okay, but it's a great move defensively as well. And to simplify. White play. Any ideas? Okay, the move is rook b6. Yeah, it's actually trying to deflect the queen away from protecting that rook. Now, queen e7 was played. Yeah, if we go to c7, rook c6, and if queen here, rook takes c5 hits that rook immediately, and if here, rook a5, and then we're going to play rook a8. There's no time to move this bishop. Even though black's installed the rook on the 7th, there's no time to do anything with this bishop or anything because there's rook a8. The problem is, yeah, this is really awkward that the back row is in effect dangerous because of this bishop on h7. The air hole on h7 is occupied. When we make air for the king, the air hole is occupied. Okay, so let's see. Queen e7 is played. Check, and this is still awkward for black's silly bishop on h7. It's unfortunately placed there. Knight e8, but black is threatening here. Rook e1 check. That looks to be that's something you've got to parry here. And this is the next amazing achievement move, to be able to parry this seemingly very dangerous move. I'll give you an example. Say you played knight f1. Actually, this might be okay for white. Actually, it might just be okay, but just about okay. It might just be okay. Knight f1. It's actually one of the best moves available. Knight f1, but the very best move was played, and it wasn't knight f1. But I think knight f1 isn't too bad. I mean, say bishop g6. Black might be threatening still. Rook e1 with queen e3 check. I'll give you an example. Let's play a nothing move. It starts to look dangerous with queen e3 check and d2, basically. So anyway, but the very, very best move was played to extinguish all the potential flames before the flames occurred. Well, I hope you've all seen this. So white's play here. So digest this position. So is there any other takers? For any moves here? Now I've mentioned knight f1. Let's just see the wealth of white's resources. Okay, so someone's mentioned queen takes e5. Let's have a look at queen takes e5. No, queen takes. This is not good. If you try and go this pin, we take the rook. And if we played knight f3, then rook e2. Apparently, this is really quite dangerous. No, a fantastic move was played. Bishop c6, just outrageously allowing rook e1 check. Queen sack, a sham queen sack, not a true queen sack, but nevertheless, even the sham sacrifices are impressive. Okay, they're not totally they're not unsound because they're sham. They're called like sham. They're not really real. But after knight f1, it's okay. White's given up the rook, but he's getting more material now because of that stupid bishop again on h7. That stupid bishop which has damaged black's back row in a rather embarrassing manner. So it's a total disaster position. There isn't time to try and even queen here. Magnus resigned here. Let's see, what can he do? Let's take some basics. If here white just scoops up all the material, rook takes e8 check. Scooping up all the material, there's no d2 there. And if d2, that's hopeless. We don't even take here because that would allow black to be winning after queen takes because of the queening again. No, we just take our time here. The knight is pinned. The pin piece is not going anywhere. It's not running away at the speed of light. All we do on d2 is actually we can take with this other knight. So we've still got all the check squares covered. And this pin knight is not running away. It's over. Yeah, it's over. If king f8, we can just take tons of material up. Well, enough material up anyway. Piece up. Knight b3. This pawn's dropping as well. We don't even have to lose c4. Protect c4 with the other one first, then win c5. So yeah, that's clear enough. Very clear enough. Very clear. Totally. So yeah, bishop c6. So quite a nifty game. Yeah, quite a nifty game from white. Do you agree? I think that was an amazing opening choice. Very impressive opening choice. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this week's session, having these two key games. Yeah, I think that's food for thought in its own right. And okay, yeah, any comments, questions, likes appreciated on YouTube. Okay, and hope you enjoyed it. See you next week. Okay, thanks very much.